Everybody, this is Don LaGreca from the Michael K. Show. When it comes to talking sports, Bob Walters and Brett Grasso are the authority.
Can't wait.
When it comes to talking sports, they're the authority. It's Bob Walters and Brett Grasso. It's Locked Up Sports, and it starts now.
Bring them out, bring them out, hey. Bring them out, bring them out, yeah. Bring them out, bring them out, hey. Bring them out.
Here we go. Bob Walters, Brett Grasso from the Brian Gunzel Studios. This is Locked Up Sports. It's divisional weekend in the NFL. 2 games today, 2 games tomorrow. We'll get you all ready for them. And we speak with prominent baseball writer Bob Nightengale right here on Locked Up Sports. Brett, what is up? Welcome to the show.
Crazy.
Brett, we are powered. The studio is powered by Vouch Store. Visit Vouch Store. It's vouch.store/lockedupsports. Pick up whatever you need. Remember, we vouch for it, so whatever you guys need.
You know it's good stuff.
Brett just...
You know, yeah, listen.
So anyway, Brett, we just finished our interview. Bob Nightengale, you're going to love it.
Yeah, really.
Reveals his Hall of Fame ballot, everything.
It was great. Takes his takes on, should David Wright have made it to the Hall of Fame?
Why are you so enamored with David Wright?
I want to know what people think about how long, how many more years, or like we talked about with him of does that him being a nice guy or well liked matter, or if they were a jerk to the writer, does that influence their vote? Like that's the difference of those few votes that might put somebody over the edge or not, or may have been a season or two short. I know David Wright was never there, but I think he's a good example of.
I got news for you, Brett.
Someone on the track who didn't make it.
Only 2 people in this country, you and Mickey Callaway, are the only ones that think David Wright belongs in the Hall of Fame. And there's a lot of Mets fans out there, like myself, who thinks he's nowhere near it.
Yeah, myself and a former Mets manager who was there on the day David Wright, the guy who I actually gave him crap for pulling David Wright early.
Played three.
I was like, you didn't give him one more at bat. You let him go out with a pop-up.
No, number five played 5 innings.
Where he should have... The guy should have dropped it. Here's the question. The guy should have dropped that.
Here's the question. No, you don't want him to drop that. Here's the question. Do they retire David Wright's number?
Of course. It's not even a question.
Now, here's the second question.
They're waiting. No, the deal was he doesn't want to. Like, him coming back this year was like the first time for the game we went to, the whatever it was.
The Old Timers Day.
Old Timers Day was the first time that he really came back in any capacity, like not as a player, like on the field ceremonies, because he doesn't want to. You know why? He's still at an age where he would kind of just been playing.
Yeah, he'd be just about.
So it makes him like that's not easy. Like Bob, that's like me. Like I know me or you. Like we're 42 now, but like there's a point where we're not old timers going to Old Timers Day. Like you're not showing up to work.
We're now getting into Old Timers Day.
In 10 years is when you're right. Like in 10 years you're gonna like be retired and all that stuff.
Now are we going to Doc or Daryl's or both? This year,
they're not doing them together.
No, I
thought they were going to do it together. I'm glad they weren't. Yeah. I was actually mad for Daryl that they were going to do them together because they took 2 different paths.
2 Mets legends. Two Mets legends. Yeah. They deserve their own day.
100%.
It's not Doc and Daryl. As Howie Rose tweeted yesterday, it's not Doc and Daryl. It's Doc. Period. Daryl.
Yes,
period.
I like that.
And that's how it is.
I didn't know that. Like I didn't know any of that. You just said it.
Doing it separate days.
I already had my thoughts on that. And I thought they were doing it together. I didn't like that. But let me tell you, this interview with Bob Nightengale, you're really, really going to enjoy just to hear from the inside scoop from one of the most prominent writers for the last however long.
Yeah, 40 years. 40 years.
Jeez.
He's 4 decades. Now, it is January. It is NFL. It is divisional weekend, one of the best weekends all year in the NFL. There's 4 games, 2 today. I think the better games are probably tomorrow. Actually, I think 1 and 1. Obviously, the big game is Kansas City, Buffalo. We'll get to that in a minute. You got Baltimore and Houston coming up 4:30 today. Green Bay and San Francisco tonight, which I think could be a surprise. I think Green Bay might be able to beat them. Then tomorrow at 3, you got Tampa Bay and
can't beat them
in Detroit. And then Kansas City and Buffalo, the big game, of course, of the weekend. Now, what do you think about today's games, Brad? I think Baltimore is head and shoulders better than Houston. I think they're the best team in the NFL. Lamar Jackson's your MVP. I think they're going to over. I said last week that Houston was going to get beat. C.J. Stroud was going to not be, the moment was going to be too big.
Nope.
He played great. Flacco came back down to Jets. Flacco back down to the earth. And they beat him.
And we talked about that one a few weeks ago, too. And I was like, yeah, Flacco's going to have a good day. And he's going to throw 2 picks and you're going to lose. You know, and that's just what
Yeah, but he didn't really have a good day. If you look at the numbers, he did because they were chasing
But it was
points.
we were referring to the weeks leading up. It's like you're going to get there with Flacco, and he's going to disappoint you.
Yeah.
So that's that 100%. There's no good ending for Flacco, but there was because he got them there, and they shouldn't have even gotten
Flacco was never one of the top quarterbacks when he was playing. I mean, I know he was playing with Peyton Manning and Brady and them.
You know what the thing is?
He was always a game manager.
Flacco came in. You have to realize every other quarterback by week 13, 14, they're all beat up. And Flacco walks in as fresh as a daisy. I know he's an older guy, totally untouched. So let me tell you, those first few weeks go pretty well.
Flacco's younger than us, you know.
Oh, I know that. But then you get beat up. Like by the end of it, like I think it wore on him, and the game you start playing really tough competition, and that was that. But CJ Stroud has hit another stride.
CJ Stroud is one of the better quarterbacks.
He's going to have a day today, and it may be in a loss where they lose by 2 touchdowns, but them going down early, like if they're down 2 touchdowns early, that's going to force him to throw even more. And their running game isn't very good, and the Ravens can shut down anybody's running game. So let me tell you, C.J. Stroud is going to throw the ball a lot today. So they may lose. They may may not cover, or the Ravens
9.5.
Right. They may. Yeah, they're going to lose by 14. But C.J. Stroud very well may throw for 3 touchdowns and 320 yards.
Now, see, C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love. These are 2 examples of why I think it's just pointless. For all these teams to be like, for us to be arguing over Daniel Jones, and Wilson and Justin Fields and everything, because you know why? There's 7 or 8 quarterbacks that are top level quarterbacks, and that's it. Stroud is now is stepping into that category. So is Love. It looks like it's still early on both of them. The problem is, but there's like 6 quarterbacks. That's it.
The NFL, and based on how they calculate salaries, have forced all these teams, the Daniel Jones, the Wilsons, the Jets, the Giants, and a whole bunch of other teams. And you even look at the Bears with Justin Fields.
Yeah,
you have one option. Start from scratch or pay him like he's a number 1 quarterback and pay him his $50 million. There is no in between. You can't pay Zach Wilson a small salary and keep him around. You can't pay Justin Fields. You're not even allowed. So you handcuff these teams of if they're all paid like great quarterbacks. They're all paid like they're the greatest quarterback that's ever lived.
$40 million, Daniel Jones.
All of them.
$40 million.
All of them. The problem is, the other teams are just getting a steal. When you sign C.J. Stroud and his rookie deal comes to whatever, and you got to pay him you're getting a steal because you're still only paying the 40 or 50. But guess what? Your second option at 40 or 50 is Daniel Jones.
Yeah, but here's the problem. And here's part of the reason why Tom Brady won all those Super Bowls. Because when you get to 40, 50 million, you can't pay. You can't now have a great supporting cast. You can have 1 or 2 other players. He always restructures his deal. Now, probably because he had Giselle and she's a top model making big money.
It wasn't because of Giselle even, though. But it's just because of the money on the outside. Yeah. And the difference is some quarterbacks who win the Super Bowl, you have to be relatively good looking. You have to be liked. No, I'm serious.
Well, then I would have won 5 Super Bowls.
And you have to be well spoken. Let me tell you. You think right now that this year, ready? Here's a good example. This is how it's going to go. Lamar Jackson wins the Super Bowl. You think he's going to be the biggest national face like Patrick Mahomes? No, right? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to become the biggest thing ever. I really don't.
Are you calling him ugly?
No, you know what? No, I just don't.
He's not well liked. He's not well liked.
He's not well liked. I don't always say he's not well spoken because he's a pretty smart guy. He's not well spoken. But on the other end, you know what? If they are begging for it, if someone like Brock Purdy wins it, you're going to see him everywhere. You're not going to see Brock Purdy. He's going to be all over the place if he goes out and becomes I won the Super Bowl this year, I win the Super Bowl next year, just like Patrick Mahomes. Let me tell you, not everybody's
very close to a race argument, Brett.
But no, not at all. Not at all. Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes.
I agree. But
at the same time, if you are that person and you're making I'm talking mega bucks on the outside,
you can't pay the rest of your players.
You can but you can easily back off and say, take the salary back. You know what I mean? Restructure my deal.
Yeah, but the restructuring the deal is deferring the money, right? That's deferring the money. And what you're doing is you
got to take a little less too. It sucks because you have to take a little bit less too.
No, they always take more. They get more when they restructure the deal. They always get more.
It depends.
But anyways, I think Lamar Jackson and Liz, I would love to have Lamar Jackson. I think he's the closest thing to Michael Vick since Michael Vick. I think he's just a dynamic player. He can throw the ball. He can run the ball.
I told you I wanted, like, I would have. We talked about this. How are the Jets? How are other teams not? And you were like, because he's not worth the money. He's not worth 200, the guaranteed money, and he's not going to get whatever. No team offered him anything.
Yeah, because he was saying,
and he would have taken it. He would have taken he would have taken the money. And you were how young he is. We talked about Juan Soto and why he's so coveted. It's because he's proven he can do it for years, and he's still young. That doesn't exist. The guys who have proven it for years are past the tipping point of their careers. Rogers. All of them are always now 30 plus.
Look at everybody winning Super Bowls. The quarterbacks are young. Rodgers won a Super Bowl when he was young.
If you have 5, I don't care what profession you're in, if you have 5 professional seasons that you're like an all-star Pro Bowl caliber player or went and won a Super Bowl, and you're still in your 20s, you are the one. Like, because the other guys they have 5 good years, but they're 31.
Yeah, but here's the deal. They all win in their 20s, and they win in their 20s because they're not getting the big bucks yet, and then they get the big bucks, and they don't win Super Bowls, except for Brady, of course.
You got to give it up.
I think Green Bay is going to definitely cover the number, and I think Green Bay can win the game outright today. I think Love has a big game. You got McCaffrey, who was hurt. Now, I know he participated fully in practice this week. He seems to be fully good to go, but you never know. It's a leg thing. It's an ankle thing. I think San Francisco is ripe to be picked off today.
What's the spread?
9.5.
9.5. Wow.
Both games say 9.5.
I have no doubt. I have a feeling this game is not going to be. I think it may come down to about 10 or 11 points at the end, but that's going to be when they're down 17 or 18 or 20, and they score a touchdown at the end. And I think it's going to be
a cover.
I truly believe that they get dominated on both sides of the football for the game. It doesn't mean it's going to be a blowout. I think 10 points is an appropriate spread because you can't go any bigger than that in a playoff game. But let me tell you, San Francisco is so ready, and they're not scared, and they're not the Cowboys with the exact same offense every day. They're not the Dolphins where they were good, but the guys are too hurt, and if it's too cold, they can. Jordan's going to have a decent day. They're going to eat him up.
Now, tomorrow, you got 2 good games. Tampa Bay, and now Detroit. I'm rooting for Detroit because you got to root for Detroit.
100%.
I'm a little worried. I don't think
Baker Mayfield will keep them in that game until the end.
But I think Detroit.
And so will Todd Bowles.
Detroit, that everybody did not pay attention to or did not talk about because of all this, the 30 years and everything, and the celebration. First of all, they acted like they won the Super Bowl last week, and. They were not the better team in that game. They were not the better team in that game, okay? The game was lost by McVay punting the ball away, trusting his defense. You can't punt the ball 4 minutes, one time out. But that's a whole other thing. Dude, I'm a little worried. Tampa, and I don't want to see Tampa Bay make it to the NFC Championship game because I think they'll get beat by whoever wins the other games. I do. I think San Francisco or Green Bay would beat up on Tampa Bay. I would like to see it played in Detroit. Green Bay in Detroit, a rivalry game, NFC Championship. That would be fantastic.
It would be fantastic. I don't think that's happening.
All that said, I like Detroit. I do like Detroit, but I'm a little worried because they did not play a good game last week.
Let me tell you, this game's going to come down to 3 points.
How do you feel about Todd Bowles?
Todd Bowles, I think
he was not good as a Jets coach.
Todd Bowles, nobody can be. He's not allowed. That's not a thing, Bob.
You're right. That's not a thing.
You're right. That's the dumbest thing you've ever said on the entire show. Anyway,
so Sunday, then we got the game of the last time they met, it was the best playoff game ever. Right up there. It ranks up with any playoff game ever. They changed the rules because of it.
Really quick, Detroit versus the Bucks.
Okay.
One of those two guys, it's going to be so close where, let me tell you, Tampa wins this game when Goff throws those 2 picks. Goff throws 2 picks, Tampa wins this game. Baker Mayfield's not going to let them get out of this game. Their defense is pretty freaking good. And let me tell you, they're going to have to run the ball, Detroit, down Tampa's throat. But if Goff throws the second pick, he's throwing the first one, okay? If he throws the second one, Baker Mayfield's going to have a drive for them to win this game at the end. And it blows my mind, but there is a chance that Tampa wins this. And if you're going to take a game money line all week, it's gonna be Tampa.
Now you got Sunday 6:30, the marquee game of like I said, last time they met. It's the first time Mahomes is on the road in the playoffs, so we're going to see how he reacts to that. Yeah. They're talking about there's whispers about Andy Reid retiring after this year, so there's that going. Kelsey is maybe his brother's play. He's going to play another couple of years. But now we're going to see how Mahomes against Josh Allen.
Taylor Swift. No, did you see that Taylor Swift
and the brother?
She's checked into the Holiday Inn in Buffalo. That's all they got.
No, she's at the Holiday Inn?
Where there's nowhere else. It's like a Motel 6.
There's definitely nice hotels in Buffalo.
No, they don't exist.
The thing is because the other Kelsey, the Kelsey, the center, the Eagles, Jason Kelsey, he retired. So he
backed out. He backed out.
No, he didn't. Did he?
He's a little backed out of it. He's I spoke in the moment.
Oh, really?
He's backed out.
He should retire.
Because I was 100% like I think he is.
Because the Eagles are going to be torn apart.
But I think it might be that he wants to have a thing where he announces it. But
so apparently he doesn't get along with Taylor Swift.
Who, Jason?
Jason, yeah, because his wife said something about Taylor Swift getting all the attention and the diva. She said, "I like when I go to games. I like to sit in the seats."
I like his wife. I've seen his wife's actually she's down there. She wants nothing to do with being all that. In the luxury
box, she doesn't want to go in the luxury box. She wants to sit in the seats.
Yes,
yeah, and this and that, and Taylor Swift took offense to it.
Yeah,
and now this is going to be the first time because he's going to go watch his brother play. This is going to be the first time they're getting together. So it's going to be awkward. So it's going to be awkward. Well, yeah, they're going to be sitting in the box together with the families.
How do the arrangements go? Because it's been Mom, Taylor Swift, Brittany Mahomes, and now they bring up this other tight end. This tight end's wife made these jackets last week. Did you see that? He made the fancy jackets.
Yeah.
But he's like a no-name tight end.
Yeah, it's gonna be just awkward. But
then does it go like Jason, or do they stick them together? Like, is this? You're gonna find out this year if this is rigged by the NFL. If this is rigged by the NFL, it's gonna be Jason and Taylor next to each other, high five. And now Jason, he's retired, right? Can he wear like Chiefs stuff?
Well, the Eagles are falling apart. They're going to fire Sirianni. That whole team fell. But they were 10-1, Brett. They were 10-1, and then they just nosedived into the ground. Sirianni's got to go. The team is terrible. The Eagles are terrible.
I think Sirianni should go.
They loved Sirianni last year. Loved him. And then
they do. But this is what they do.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It is what they do. It's like going on with the Giants and that coaching staff. But now, as far as the game now,
win the Super Bowl. See you later.
Yeah, and now
Doug Peterson.
As far as the game,
congratulations on winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you're fired.
Now the game, I think the Bills are better.
They let Andy Reid go. They were like, it's just not working out. We don't think we don't. I know. We just don't think you have what we need. To win Super Bowls.
Yeah, they let Vermeil go back in the day. The Eagles.
So I don't know which way to go with this because Sirianni's like, I just took you to the Super Bowl.
Sirianni's
they're like, great job. You took us to that game where it's pretty important.
Sirianni's a jerk. Sirianni's a jerk, though. He has that bodyguard with him.
He's like Marcus Stroman, where he's only like as good as when he's winning. When you don't want him on your team when he's losing.
No, because he's a jerk.
Yeah, right. When he's winning, you're like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, he's our jerk.
Yeah, no problem. And then the next week, you're like, hey, how's that guy still?
I think the Bills are the better team in this game. I think they're on the roll. And I think Buffalo's a tough spot to go into and win. And I think as long as Josh Allen doesn't have one of those games where he throws, because he does have those games where he's careless with the ball. He can be a top level quarterback, or he can be somebody who's like Brett Favre,
nothing to do with any
throwing it around and they lose.
Doesn't even matter.
No. They're
just cursed.
They're
never ever. I'm gonna tell you, this is gonna be like the Bills have their old stuff with the AFC championships and how many Super Bowls they went to and lost and whatever. It's worse. This is gonna be so specific to even when the Chiefs are on their decline and shouldn't have. People were like, Chiefs might be out in the first round. Chiefs, they just don't have it. They lost that area, and no, they're just going to beat them. And the Chiefs may be this. It sucks because we all want the Lions to come through. We want San Francisco to come through.
Chiefs
we want everything else.
Win it.
The Chiefs are going to go in the Super Bowl. And it's just going to be them laughing in the background going, with all this background noise and everything else going on of, guys dropping passes. Look where they're at with everybody not playing well. And now all these guys one or two guys, Rashid Rice being probably the most important. That's an unproven in the postseason.
Yeah, he doesn't trust them. They drop balls all over the place.
Last week, he got his confidence up, and that's all it takes sometimes in that cold weather to catch those balls.
What about
when Kelsey's having a bad day and you can't go to Kelsey anymore? Let me tell you, I truly believe that the Chiefs calmly go into Buffalo and Josh Allen tries to push too hard. He squeezes the ball too hard. He tries to make too many plays. He tries to run. He has a big day. You want Josh Allen? Take him in over and rushing yards. He's going to squeeze in 100% because it's going to be all Josh Allen. Guess what? We needed him to spread that ball around a little bit. And he's going to throw the one pick he shouldn't have thrown. He's going to have a fumble where he held onto the ball too long. And I'm telling you, Buffalo loses this football game.
Is this generation's Manning versus Brady?
100%. You know what? I don't see it that way because you know what? Not in that way. It was more of the teams. I was going to say more of it's more of a Cowboys 49ers
back in the 90s.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas they just keep, no matter what happens, they're going to run into each other. It doesn't, who knows where it's going to happen. Whoever's good this year or bad this year, they're both going to be the most exciting two teams in the playoffs playing each other. I truly do see that. The
Bills were on the verge of missing the playoffs. The Bills 4 weeks left this season.
The Bills have a very tight window, whereas the Chiefs already did their damage.
Why does everybody say that? Why?
No,
everybody said this year the window was closed.
Josh Allen decided to take max contract, and Stephon Diggs and max contracts, and you can't have everybody take a max contract, or you can't have a line, and that's the stuff that's going to give. Right now, they're good. Let me tell you, they are in a good spot, and they have a game at home. Yeah. And they're going to blow it, and they are going to be ruined forever. You can take the away losses, and they have all these excuses for them when you were in Kansas City. The overtime rules got us. Oh, they changed the overtime rules. Oh, no, now it's like we get the ball back. It's not just a touchdown. Change the overtime rules
Arrowhead's a tough spot to go into.
Now it's no excuses are left, and they're going to have to sit in this offseason. If you think Stephon Diggs is coming back after they lose in Buffalo, he's not. I'm telling you, it's see you later time, and Josh Allen's going to realize that he's only as good as having a top 3 receiver out there. And he's going to realize really soon, you're going to watch Stephon Diggs become elite somewhere else.
I think the AFC Championship game is the Super Bowl.
It is. I'm telling you, it always turns out that way, where there's the game that's always going to be better than the Super Bowl. Typically, it's one of the championship games, but in this scenario, I think it is also. But I'm telling you, don't be surprised if the Chiefs win by 15.
Ugh. I like the Chiefs, but they're so unlikable.
I don't want them to win. I'm not even hating on Buffalo. I'm just saying that when I see I see a calm team over here ready to play football. And I see another team going, we can't lose. And we watch what happened with the Cowboys in that scenario last week.
Oh, the Cowboys.
Exact same scenario. A team, Green Bay, going, oh, look at us, we made it. And another team going, oh my God, if we lose, we're down. And guess what? They pressed. You pressed too hard.
Why can't Jerry Jones see that he's the problem, that he can't be that he's a businessman, not a general manager of a football team?
And that's why he realized, you have to realize, and Jerry Jones, the reason you don't get rid of McCarthy is because you'll never let someone like Belichick in your thing, because he won't allow that
spotlight.
You have to be on a radio show 4 times a week. Out there calling out your team.
He's on the sidelines.
Supposedly, he's really bringing plays up and saying we're doing this.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it's like that.
I know it is. It definitely is.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. All right, so now let's get to our interview, Brett. We got one of the biggest sports writers, one of the biggest baseball writers in America.
Yeah, on one of the biggest shows.
On the biggest show. Let's be real here, because the Kelsey brothers, that show's starting to fade a little bit, right? Everyone's getting sick of that. Now we're stepping up.
Yeah.
So here's our interview. Bob Nightengale, USA Today. Enjoy the interview, everybody. All right, so now we are joined by, he's one of the most prominent baseball writers in America. He's been covering the game for over 4 decades. He writes for USA Today since 1998. He's an MLB insider. His name is Bob Nightengale, and he joins us here on Locked Up Sports. Bob, thanks for joining us for a couple minutes.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, yes, I want to start right away with some breaking news that we had yesterday. Sports Illustrated, they laid off all their employees. They're going under. What does someone like you in the business think about that, and how has times changed and everything as a newspaper writer yourself?
No, it's just devastating to see what's happened to the business in general. I mean, it's probably more shocked to see New York Times pull the sports section, and lay everybody off or, send them to different departments. Can't imagine paper that prominent, not covering, sports at all. And, now this, obviously it wasn't the same. It wasn't, no longer weekly. It was a, once a month type of publication, more online. But, it's still in my den. I still have famous, Sports Illustrated covers, everything from a one from, Mickey Mantle to Jeter to Tyson to OJ, with the murder rap. I'm looking around my den here. But, yeah, it's it's sad. It's just people don't want to read stuff in the newspapers anymore or magazines. It's like, hey, they want something quick on the telephone. They're not even reading off their computer anymore. It's just on the telephone. I remember back in the day, you run the subways to Yankee Stadium or Shea City Field. Everybody had a newspaper in their hands, and now you never see a newspaper.
Never. And yeah, you're right. I saw a picture a couple days ago of an old subway shot, and everybody in the subway, everyone had a newspaper in front of their face. But now we have the phones in front of our face.
I can't tell you how much I look forward to, who was going to be on the next Sports Illustrated cover growing up, or when it was your team, or anything big that would happen. And it's just amazing how that faded away so quickly.
Yeah, it was just great background. They kind of started the the in-depth pieces where you're doing a story on an individual, and you'll spend a week or two with them. And now nowadays it's just hit and run. Everybody's a quick thing, shorter the better. The time spent on stories now a lot of times is less than 45 seconds.
Yeah, and everybody's out to get it first, which to me, I never I understand why you guys are competitive with each other, getting it out first and everything, but nobody, like, for the regular person reading, we don't remember who got it out first. Two weeks later, we don't care who got it out first. We know who got it wrong. Honestly, that's what we remember. Yeah. Sometimes we remember that, like John Heyman. What was that last year? John Heyman with
Arson Judge.
Yeah, Arson Judge.
Yeah, I just did a column on that after the whole debacle with Ohtani. Ohtani on a plane to Toronto, Ohtani signing with the Blue Jays. None of that stuff is true. And same thing. And you're exactly right. People remember who's wrong. They won't remember, who got it first. And the thing is now, when people have it first, well, everybody can kind of catch up in a matter of about 20 or 30 seconds. So it really doesn't matter. It was, an ego type thing. And, back in the day when, before internet, I still remember at the winter meetings when Alex Rodriguez signed with the Texas Rangers. That was in the, I think, Fort Worth Star Telegram. And, you had to catch up. You had a day to catch up. So that story, he had it by day by himself. You don't have anymore. Obviously, no one's breaking stories in newspapers.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Now, how do you develop these relationships to become the one to report on first? Like, who are you getting the information from? Are you getting it directly from the players' camp, or from just side people who other people may not have access to?
Don't have to reveal the sources here, Brett. Come on.
In generality.
Now, a lot of them, I bet 98% are from the agents who represent the players. It's from their camp. They get it out. Now the teams can't divulge it, certainly not publicly, because if a guy flunks a physical, like the Carlos Correa thing, the Giants would have been the hook. Say, hey, you said you had a deal, you got to pay him $350 million, no matter what those X-rays look like. Where the agents are, leak that stuff out. So a lot of times it's just the agents and the longer in the business, or the better relationships you have with different agents and agencies, the more likely you're going to get that story. That's why a lot of times too on some of these trades you see, hey, so and so got traded, but no one's reporting the full trade. All they're doing is reporting that the agent is saying, hey, my guy got traded. No idea who's coming back.
Right.
But so that part gets out there fast.
And it's not like the agents don't have a horse in the race. I mean, they're trying to up
they're doing
the
it
price.
for a reason. Yeah, they're doing it specific usually for something to get the player something more out of it.
Now this year at the winter meetings, you made news with the whole Ohtani thing, and you're fighting the Cubs president, in the hallway. Take us through those couple days at the winter meetings with everything going on with Ohtani and the Blue Jays thing, and then you coming out talking against the writers, and your stern words that were given to you by the Cubs president Hoyer?
Yeah, it was a same thing as that people try to get it right, and we can't even get our own news right. So yeah, in the Ohtani case, I knew ahead of time, hey, Ohtani is not signing at the winter meetings. It was reported they was going to, on the verge of it, and they said no, it's not happening. So sometime during those winter meetings, that was Monday or Tuesday, you get word from a high-ranking Cubs official. So now it looks like we're out. He wants over $500 million for 10 years. We're not doing that. So I just did a simple tweet that the Cubs' optimism for Ohtani has waned. That's simple. And then later on, they were trying to get Glass now, and I said, the Cubs are in talks with Tampa Bay for Glass now. Morel has come up in talks. Your young position player, and so the GMs at the time have a little availability. So I run into Hoyer right before I was about to meet with the Cubs reporters and said, hey, we're not trading Morel. He's not being moved. And that was it. It wasn't certain words. That was it. It had nothing to do with Ohtani. Nothing to do with Ohtani.
They were like breaking in the Sports Center with it. They were like, but they were breaking in the Sports Center with that stern words thing. I read it all over the internet.
Yeah, no, over the net. And they, no one even asked me what was said. And they, Hoyer apologized. I shouldn't have even said something in front of people. I said, no, you said, I know what you said, and it was fine. That you weren't putting Morel in trade talks at Glass now for a 1-year rental, and that was the extent of it. And then comes that morning a few days later that Ohtani and his agent are flying to Toronto this morning to seal a deal with the Blue Jays. So I checked with the Ohtani's people. No, he's in bed right now in Orange County. He's not on any plane. And so I just dismissed it. And later on the day, another LA reporter says, done deal, Ohtani is signed with the Blue Jays. Check with the agency again. And people that know Ohtani said, no decision's been made. That's absolutely wrong. So I just say, hey, no decision been made on Ohtani. And then a few hours later, I think it's on MLB TV, they're actually saying, okay, the plane is over over the Great Lakes now. It's on Lake tomorrow. And I chat back in. They say, where's this coming from? And so, I say, okay, Ohtani's not on a plane. He's never been on a plane. Quit tracking the flight type of thing.
They were following the guy from Shark Tank, I thought.
Right. Yeah, so it's just completely fabricated. And of course, the next, a day, 2 days later, there he is signing with the Dodgers, where everybody thought he was going to go along.
Yeah, why is MLB allowing that contract to stand? I mean, why are they? It's a clear skirting of the luxury tax. It kind of screws the small market teams. I figured they'd step in and say something.
Well, the one thing is and I checked with MLB about this. One thing is, it's not like the luxury tax only paying $2 million of the $70 million. They're paying $46 million luxury tax hit.
Oh, okay.
So it's still a very substantial hit. And I said, is there a fear that other players will do this? And they said, no. Who wants to defer that kind of money with no interest? And sure enough, they calculate the contract now as worth $460 million.
Right. The
union calculates at $430. So what businessman would say, hey, let me take this money, much money up front and slash the contract the way it is. So I guarantee when Soto signs next year, whoever, they're going to say, this is the richest contract in sports. Even though it won't be 700, it'll be over 460.
But you're absolutely right. You're 1,000% right. But it's the same thing. A lot of people don't realize. Like, think about it with the tax returns. Everybody's like, I got a big tax return. I'm like, you just gave the government an interest-free loan for a year. So, I mean, a lot of people don't think of it like that.
Well, the one thing, on his end, it's smart, and I know California's kind of looking into it.
Yeah, California.
It's like, wait a minute now. You're only paying taxes in California. It's over 14% now on $2 million a year. So when he starts making his, $68 million a year 10 years from now, I guarantee he won't be living in the state of California.
Oh,
He's going to live somewhere with tax free. So he'll save money taxes big time.
How much are these guys? Are they actually looking to see their options with other teams, or do they have their mind set up and just using other teams to jump up the price? Like, was Ohtani set? Did he have his mind made up? He wasn't leaving LA.
Did we ever have a chance as Mets fans? Is what we want to know.
And with Yamamoto, all these guys.
I think it was LA all along. I mean, I do think that Toronto piqued his interest. Hey, get international market, and I can be left alone there. I remember when he was in New York during the summer. I remember New York writers asked him, "Hey, what do you think of New York City?" And he goes, "I don't know. I just take the team bus to the game and away from the game." The game's at home, but he never goes out in LA or anything like that. Very private guy, And it's like last year with the Aaron Judge. I don't think Judge was ever going to leave the Yankees. Too many of his friends said there's no way he's leaving. But test the market, and obviously teams like San Francisco and San Diego really drove up that price where the Yankees end up having to pay it.
Yes, and 700. Listen, the Dodgers better win. You got $1 billion worth of contracts on the books. Dodgers better win. They better stop getting eliminated in the first round of these playoffs.
Yeah, I mean their pitching was a mess at the end of last year. I thought Dave Roberts' best job. That team never should have won over 100 games like it did. When the playoffs started, they just had nobody. So now they do. We'll see what happens if Kershaw comes back. But at least you got a lot of pitching depth in Yamamoto now and Tyler Glass now. And we'll see about the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen still can be a little shaky. The team nobody talks about is, still might be the best team in baseball, but still might be Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's still a very far team.
Which, as Mets fans, makes
Atlanta's always the best. Atlanta never loses. Yeah. Atlanta is just fantastic. My entire life, Atlanta's just they do the right thing. They sign the right people. They get deals on people.
Now they're signing the guys young. Signing all these guys very young before they were due up for contracts and other teams. It's something that when compared to the Mets. How do you think that strategy as compared to the Mets waiting on someone like Pete Alonso to sign a contract extension? Do you think that the Mets have a shot compared to somebody like Atlanta to keep up?
Well, I mean, Atlanta's done a great job as far as signing these guys and locking into extensions almost immediately. And they traded for Chris Sale. He signs a cheap extension, or at least team friendly extension. Just a few days later, did that same thing, of course, with Matt Olson. And Murphy, the catcher. So, with New York, I think what they want to do, they want to be like, Atlanta. They want to be, like the Dodgers, having more homegrown players. But obviously something's up with Alonso in the sense where they've tried to lock him up before. Nothing's happened. So, now he's so close to free agency. Nothing's going to happen now. I mean, you get the sense, David Stearns has no ties with Alonso, unless he's kind of forced by Steve Cohen to sign him. I get the sense he's not coming back. I mean, I get the sense that if they get the right offer at the trade deadline, they'll move him. They almost moved him last summer.
But I can't believe that. I mean, listen, you got a homegrown guy. He's gonna hit 500 home runs. He's gonna break all the records for the Mets. He's a first baseman. He's a power hitter. And
he's improved at
the
first
Mets
base.
throw money at everybody. And then for some reason, all of a sudden, they play hardball with Alonso, and I don't get why they're playing hardball with Alonso. Give him his money.
I just think they want to play hardball. I mean, I think that's where they hired David Stearns. I mean, hired a guy that won in the cheap in Milwaukee. Got a great reputation. I mean, they're paying him, I think $12, $13, $14 million a year. The highest by any executive. So anybody can write checks. They didn't hire David Stearns just to write, the biggest checks. They tried that, and it blew up in their face.
Yeah, but
that's why they moved, the two guys that did last summer, with Scherzer and Verlander. It's like, okay, well, we're going to go for young prospects now. And when Scherzer said that, I think they'll go, oh, come on, he can't be telling the truth here. And he was. I mean, he was told, hey, we're not going to be, we're not trying to win anything. in 2024, we're going to shoot for 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, Scherzer was the worst. He underwhelmed the entire time he was here. The game one in the playoffs 2 years ago was a nightmare. The Mets are down a touchdown in the second inning. Now, and Scherzer, listen, I have a list on this show. It's called Former Mets Now Good, or it's Now Good, is a former Met now good. And Scherzer was he's getting older. The Mets now have the money to buy out of their problems. But even like with the manager, why did Buck Showalter have to get fired?
I think the same thing as say David Stearns has nothing to do with the Showalter. It wasn't his guy, and so they fired him. Hey, let him hire his own guy. It might be a thing too, like okay, this is David Stearns' team. We're gonna run things the way we want. We can control things too. And it's a whole lot easier to control things when you have a young manager. You're not going to do that, with Dusty Baker when he was in Houston, or Bob Melvin, that sort of thing. I think same thing with Showalter. I think they knew that at some point there's going to be some friction there between the front office and Showalter. Let's be honest, Showalter didn't go there for a rebuild. He went there to win a championship, and obviously they're not trying to win a championship in 2024.
Yeah, no, but. They could buy if they stay in it in this day and age with the extra teams making the playoffs, they could kind of sneak into a wild card, right? I mean, once you're in it, if your pitching comes up big, you could kind of make a little run. Who saw the Diamondbacks making it to the World Series this year?
Yeah, especially when they beat Philadelphia. Yeah, nobody saw that. Nobody saw that coming. So no, that part can come. But I'm thinking, like say Soto, for instance, if they wanted to, they could have traded for Soto. Yep. But I think they said, what if we want to spend some money? We're not going to give up prospects and grab Soto. We'll wait for he's a free agent, and then we'll throw money at him. I think they have if I'm going to pick a team that's going to get Juan Soto next year, I pick the Mets. I don't think he's used to NL East. He enjoyed himself in San Diego. I don't think he was doing cartwheels getting traded to the Yankees. He really wanted to stay in San Diego. That's why I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him.
Why would you not?
With the Mets.
20 degrees here. It's 80 in San Diego.
Yeah. Do you see the Mets making any more moves? Picking up a DH, maybe something to shore up the bullpen a little bit more,
or Severino, our guy.
Might be.
I think just on the cheap. I just don't think they want to spend money now. A little bit like the Red Sox are doing. I know people are really upset in Boston, the fact they're not doing anything. But I think, the fact that you're throwing money at, guys like Verlander and Scherzer go away. You're not just keep throwing up money out there now. They're still so far over that last luxury tax figure. It's like they want to bring that down. Next year you're going to have about $70 million off the books with Verlander and Scherzer gone, and even more with if Alonso's gone too. I think they just want to shape up that team to be a perennial contender. Just like Atlanta. Don't worry about how many World Series they won, but they're back in the playoffs every year. I mean, everybody still talks about Atlanta with the 14 straight division titles. Even though they only won one World Series, they were still in 4 of them.
Yeah, exactly. But our prospects never pan out. I mean, look, Generation K, Pulsifer, Wilson, Isringhausen ended up being great as a closer for the Cardinals. But our prospects never work out.
David Wright worked out till he didn't work out.
Yeah, I guess.
No, a lot of prospects don't. I know when remember Mets fans and Mets, the media went crazy when they traded Jared Kelenic, to Seattle for Edwin Diaz. They kind of laying Brody bandwagon on it.
Lastings Millage.
Yeah, it turned out well, that one,
Yeah, the trade was great. Who wouldn't want Diaz? And Kelenic has not worked out. Maybe will in Atlanta, but he hasn't. But you're right. I mean, so many young players do not work out, and some are just not built for New York too. That's a big factor.
What's your thoughts on the WBC? Obviously, we lost our closer last year before the season even started. What do you? I hate it. I don't think anybody should be playing it, especially when your team's paying you all this money. What are your thoughts on the WBC and whether players should play or not?
It's I'll tell you the truth. It's an enjoyable thing to cover. I mean, particularly when those games are in Miami, it is like a World Series atmosphere. And I know it doesn't mean as much to the U.S., but it means everything Japan. I mean, I think when Japan won it, I think through Ohtani, that was his World Series. And once you're involved and have those fans go absolutely berserk, it's a different thing. You always got to be there to appreciate it. You know, there's some injuries, but, you know, the Diaz thing was such a fluke. His brother jumps in his arms, and that happens. Altuve gets hit by a pitch. You know, that can happen in spring training, that sort of thing. But particularly the foreign players, the Latin players, love that thing just because it means so much to those countries. And I think they'll, you know, at some point maybe push it back a week to make sure the pitchers are more healthy. But, you know, your thinking is right along with all the clubs too. You know, the clubs' GMs can't come out and say, we don't want our guys to play. You're not allowed to stop them from playing. But they, you know, they want their guys to stay home. They really do.
Yeah, of course they do. I mean, it's an MLB thing. It's an MLB. You know, it's an arm of the MLB. So of course the MLB is gonna want them to play the players. But the pitching, it's not real. Is it really a full all-out baseball game if your pitchers only throw? The starting pitcher can only go 3 innings or whatever it is. They're on strict pitch counts. You know.
Well, you go to 90 pitches at the end. You know, in the last 2 semifinals and finals, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, the pitching is you know, it can be a problem for sure. Obviously, the U.S. didn't have that type of pitching, but it turns out just the hitting that come through.
Now,
the players love it. I mean, if you're a player in Port St. Lucie, say you're Alonzo, you would much rather be traveling around and staying at, you know, 5-star hotels, and you know, you practice for a couple hours in the morning, you play golf all afternoon. Those guys absolutely love it just because it breaks up the monotony of spring training.
Now, what are your thoughts on the Yankees offseason? The Soto deal, they have to. It's basically a rental. And what do you think of them picking up Stroman? I think Stroman was a good pickup. I think he's going to have a good year.
I disagree, but
and then the Soto. What are your thoughts on the Yankees offseason this year?
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping they'll do more. I thought Stroman was a steal for the money. Yeah, let's be honest, and he wasn't on the radar. You know, a lot of teams backed away. So we're not sure. Yeah, you know, I mean, he opted out at $21 million, so it's not like he got a raise. He took a pay cut. There wasn't that much interest, and I think the Yankees are saying, you know what, we know this guy can pitch in New York. You know, we think he'll be fine here for $38 million over 2 years. You know, we'll jump on that any day. We'll see about Soto. Where does I say that? You know, I saw the Padres an awful lot. He didn't do anything for the Padres. Nope. You know, he had a big September, but that was, you know, when they were out of the race. But he didn't do that much. I know he can hit, but the one thing that drives you crazy, and you guys will see it this summer, is it seems like he's more interested in taking a walk, you know, than getting a hit or driving a run. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I know he would drive the Padre people crazy, like, hey, just swing the bat, you know, driving some runs. We don't want you just, you know, staying in first base, clogging the bases. And he's a below average outfielder too, very below average.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankee. He's a great hit. I think he's a great hit. Last year when he was on the market, when they would talk about trading him, or 2 years ago it was, they were trading him. The Nationals were. I was all about the Mets. I said, sell whoever, give away whoever to get him here. He's a great hitter. He's a power hitter. He's like 23 years old.
Young, yeah.
You know, you got. I was all in on getting him, and now the Yankees got him. And I'm glad to hear you say that you think that the Mets will probably have a good shot of getting him next year. But and he's going to the Hall of Fame now. The Hall of Fame ballot's coming out next week. What are your thoughts on who you got? You know, you want to reveal your ballot here? What do you want? Who do you got going in? Who's? It's not a big year, but you know.
No, it's a bigger class than normal. I mean, obviously, Adrian Beltre is a lock. You know, we know he's going in. It certainly looks like Todd Helton is going in, and Joe Mauer. And I think that's it. I think just those 3 guys. I think Gary Sheffield falls short. I think Billy Wagner falls just short too. So,
you think Billy Wagner's a Hall of Famer?
I've been voting for the last few years. The only reason I didn't vote for him first couple of years, and then just talking to too many people, and they made a good point, particularly some baseball scouts. They say, you know what, Billy Wagner was striking out so many people when it was embarrassing to strike out. You know, nowadays these strikeout totals are so inflated. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember talking to Max Scherzer a couple of years ago. He was about to pass Bob Gibson on the strikeout list. You know, and then Scherzer's from St. Louis. He goes, I wish I could say it mattered a lot, but it's like apples and oranges. Back when Bob Gibson's guys pitched, you were embarrassed to strike out 100 times. Now guys have 100 strikeouts by May.
Yep.
It's just a different game now. But yeah, so I vote for Wagner now. I think Wagner will get in. I think Sheffield gets in on the Veterans Committee.
I was just going to ask you about Sheffield. I saw you really go into why Gary Sheffield should be in the Hall of Fame. And let me tell you, after reading everything you wrote about his stats, him as a person, I'm 100% agree with you. And I really wish someone like him, when you see the stats and who he compares to, I know he had one or two little scandals that he may or may not have been associated with.
He was terrible defensively, terrible. He quit on the Padres.
Won a World Series with the Marlins. I mean, he just was such a scary hitter to face at a certain point in his career.
He really was. I mean, when you all those guys at Ballot, I think he's the most feared hitter right now in this Ballot. He's a more feared hitter than Beltray easily. Or anybody else, Helton or
Todd Helton was a great hitter. Todd Helton was a great hitter.
Yeah, but the thing about you with Helton was a home run total. It's like, hey, you're playing in Court Field.
Yeah.
Like you have over 350 home runs. So I never, I'm voting for Helton this year. I had not before. I said, you know what? I'm not voting for Todd Helton until Fred McGriff gets in. I thought there was the two guys I thought baseball writers really messed up on was not having McGriff in, among the writers' ballot. And same thing with Jack Morris. I mean, Morris was such a stud.
Well, he should be in just on that Game 7 he pitched.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for that, 1-0. But with Todd Helton, I mean, if Todd Helton gets in, why does Keith Hernandez not get in?
I know, but then you run into people like Mark Grace. Well, if Keith Hernandez gets in, should Mark Grace gets in?
Yeah, I guess you can.
But there's people like But I think when Scott Rowland got in, I think that kind of opened up the door a little bit more for Keith Hernandez. Possibility. I'm not sure if Hernandez has ever been in that Veterans.
No, I don't think he has. Now, what about somebody like Andrew Jones? I think Andrew Jones was one of the better center fielders I've ever seen. He wasn't a great hitter, and he kind of fell off the cliff at the end of his career, but he is a borderline Hall of Famer. What do you think about Andrew Jones?
Yeah, this is the first time I voted for Jones. I mean, he was unbelievable. That's still the best, defensive center fielder I think I've seen, early on those years in Atlanta. But he did fall off a cliff. I mean, he was god-awful in L.A., I mean, so bad they released him about a year and a half to go. He's like 25, 30 pounds overweight. You thought he kind of quit. But we, have all those gold gloves and stuff. It's like, okay, if we're going to put Scott Rowland in the Hall of Fame with those gold gloves, we should put Andrew Jones in too. So I've been weighing on Jones for several years, but this is the first time I voted for him.
We had a debate a few weeks ago about David Wright, and obviously he was on track to become a Hall of Famer, as any Mets fan thinks that he should be a Hall of Famer. But how many, well, not in that way, that he had the career up until when it ended, that he would. How many more quality years would David Wright had to have had to be, in your mind, get your vote to be in the Hall of Fame?
I think a good 4 or 5 more years. I really do. It was too bad and short. Great, obviously great guy, great team leader, everything else, beloved by the media, teammates. It's a shame it just ended so quickly. If it was even, Joe Mauer was ending quickly too. I mean, he was, a stud as a catcher for the first 5-6 years. But he was hitting 5-6 home runs a year as a first baseman and driving in 35, 40 runs. So, terrible. Yeah, but he's still going to get in that way. So, no, it's a very good career, but it just ended way too early.
Well, we had Mickey Callaway on a couple weeks ago, and he was talking, and in one of his sentences, he kind of just off the cuff was like, "Oh, David Wright, I think he's a Hall of Famer." I was like, "Oh, hold on a second. Do you think David Wright's a Hall of Famer?" And listen, I'm as big a Mets fan as there is, but I'm a tough grader with the Hall of Fame. I can't put David Wright in the Hall of Fame. I get it, you were his manager, but you know, it's to me, and then my partner over here who just likes to, be condescending and play devil's advocate was like, I'd put him in tomorrow.
As a Mets fan, I would. As a Mets fan, I would. But if it was on another team, I would look at him. I would not. So it's just, I can tell you that's nothing to do with him deserving.
Now
to do with me.
Now you want Sheffield in. Yep. Where do you stand with the steroid guys? And because is he a steroid guy? Is he not? He used the cream. It was it's iffy with Sheffield.
Yeah, I voted for steroid guys. My line of demarcation is pretty simple. It's like if you weren't suspended, if you weren't punished, tested positive, I'm going to vote for you. So for instance, I have not and I will not vote for Alex Rodriguez. The rules are in place. Manny Ramirez, the rules are in place. Now, I bet we've elected 5 or 6 guys, heavy steroid guys,
definitely.
that have been in the Hall of Fame the last 6-7 years now, and but they weren't caught. Sheffield's name came out in the mystery report, for working out, for 3 weeks or so with Barry Bonds, saying he used something to repair his knee. He says it may not have been the cream. Even Victor Conte says that. Bottom line is, when you look at a year when people think, did he use the cream? According to the Bauer report, that was his worst season. He was a stunt every year. So, Bonds, he was never suspended a day. Neither was, Roger Clemens. Back then too, it was a wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Guys were using everything.
Stuff forever. In the 70s, they were using the greenies.
And it was legal in some ways. Even what Mark McGwire was doing up to a point was legal.
Yeah, my point is saying, hey, if you're driving out west on the freeway, you're not going. If there's no cop, there's gonna be no cops around. You're not going 55. You're going 75, 80. Same sort of thing. It was actually being encouraged. I mean, there were GMs, there were managers that wanted guys on steroids because the bottom line is those guys were the most dedicated guys. They weren't running the streets at night, partying stuff. A lot of those guys were in the gym and taking care of their bodies, eating right. You actually wanted some steroid guys on your team. You really did, because the guys that did it right weren't breaking down either.
I think the MLB wanted it too, and to see those guys coming back from injuries like they never came back from and putting up numbers like they never did, let me tell you, that was a big boom for everybody.
Listen to you two guys. Just follow the rules when somebody's watching. Oh man, I hope the kids aren't watching. Listen to the show.
Talking about 2 guys who work in jail right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a. It's almost standing there. People, look back now and say, how could you can't vote for steroid guys? But yet, it was so widespread. Once the rules are in place, if you laid the rules in, it's like, okay, you're done. I mean, you cost your. You look at a guy like Barry Bonds. I mean, he was the best thing that happened to the San Francisco Giants. He was signing that contract. The crowd showed up and everything else, and never suspended a single day. But a guy like Alex Rodriguez, I mean, he cost the Yankees that season. I mean, when you're suspended, I mean, you're costing your team games and stuff all the time. You're not helping your team anyway. So that's why I don't even think twice about not voting for a Manny Ramirez or an A-Rod. But I was all in on Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens.
Now, a lot of people think that the writers will look at how the player was towards them during their career. If he was a jerk, a lot of people say this guy was a jerk. That's why he didn't get in. That guy is that true? Do people? I know you're human beings and everything. Do you guys take that into account?
It shouldn't, and I'm not saying it's not a factor. I mean, we go to David Wright. If David Wright was a jerk, it's like, okay, yeah, there's no way I'm going to consider him. Right. But yeah, it looks like he might stand the ballot, past 1 year. The one case is David Ortiz, beloved by everybody. Mm-hmm. Ortiz showed up in that report years ago that he was one anonymous positive drug tests. Baseball says, well, we don't know if it's positive or not, but he was on a report. But he got in his first ballot, and I think the fact he was such a good guy really helped on his case. Mm-hmm. A guy like Jeff Kent, I think Kent should have been a Hall of Fame.
I agree, Jeff Kent. There's a Met, former Met now good, Jeff Kent.
A Sorley guy. One guy I voted for, the only 2 years have been eligible, Carlos Beltran. I mean, I've been around this guy enough or what he meant in that clubhouse and team leadership and everything else, I think Beltran should be in the Hall of Fame.
You think he's not getting in partly because he was banging on trash cans?
Yeah, I think it's like, he was part of that whole thing. It's like, hey, it was a player. It wasn't like he was the godfather of that thing. He's not orchestrating. Like, hey, you guys have to do this. If you want to do it, you do it. Poor Altuve. Those guys swear up and down he wanted nothing to do with it. I think even the research I've done shows that if he did, it was very minimal. But yet he is booed more than anybody.
Well, he was wearing the wire. He was wearing the wire, Bob.
I know people still believe that.
Now,
it'll be fascinating when his case comes up. It'll be fascinating. Yeah.
What about Trevor Bauer? Now, that was one thing that us Met fans, we're glad you were wrong about Trevor Bauer, because that turned out to be a disaster. It turns out he got kind of railroaded by this girl. What do you think about Trevor Bauer? Does he get picked up somewhere? Is he still going to be the same player?
I don't think it's picked up. I really don't. I mean, he's 32 years old now. There's other women out there. I mean, it wasn't just one case. There's, I think, 4 others that just have come out.
Yeah, he was still a bad guy.
Also, it's just people stay away from that, just with the fan base and everything else. People get upset. Right now, you talk to baseball scouts that go down to Mexico, they say Roberto Osuna, remember him with the Astros?
Yep.
He had the domestic violence thing. They say he's better than 90% of the relievers in baseball right now. He can close for about 25 teams, and nobody's touching him. It's going to be fascinating what we see here with Julio Urias with the Dodgers.
Right. Why are some guys brought back and some guys just totally out? What is the reason for that? Yeah,
I know. I mean, the Chapman case is a great point.
Right.
He was brought back, and people kind of said, we're going to look the other way. But then Houston brings in Osuna from Toronto and just gets absolutely blasted for it.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing this guy. That's amazing. I mean, there's been some guys for coaching candidates this past winter that were supposed to join staffs, and they looked in the background. Well, there's a domestic violence thing from 10, 15 years ago. We can't have you. So baseball's pretty much drawn a line on that. Like, it's not worth the aggravation.
Does Wander Franco ever step on a major league field again?
If even 50% of the stuff the prosecution is saying, I don't see it. I can't. It'd be interesting if the Rays have to pay that contract. But if he can't, step back in the United States, then the Rays are off the hook there. But yeah, I mean, the stuff is so appalling, disgusting to see. All these
reports
and everything that the prosecution's come up with, and his
mother was involved.
And if the claims are substantiated, I hope nobody brings people like that back. It's one thing if they're slightly vindicated or something else happens, and I can give some people to give them a shot. But maybe that nobody else is going to change. People will continue to do bad things. Maybe not that. If the MLB or teams allow them to do it, and can come back.
The Rays finally pay someone, and look what happens.
Yeah, it's like the guy from remember Vasquez, the great reliever for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes.
About 5-6 years ago, he spent 3-4 years in jail, and nobody talks about the guy. Like, hey, when you bring him back, he's still young. Same thing. With with a minor. So no, I think he. It looks like he will be done. You hate to say it. I mean, hasn't been court yet or anything like that. But all these allegations and stuff like that, and the prosecution. Having all this evidence, it's really sickening, really.
All right. Well, Bob, we want to thank you for joining us. His name is Bob Nightengale. He's one of the biggest baseball writers in America. Next time, we're going to get you on video. We're going to figure out our technical issues, I promise. Bob, thanks for giving us a couple minutes here today.
Thanks, Bob.
Sure, my pleasure. Take care, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank
Bob.
you. How about that, Brett? How about that?
Good.
Bob Nightengale, thank you.
I hope everybody enjoyed that, because I know we did. And getting to ask, one of the most important baseball minds and writers random questions about things that that was awesome.
We tried to get the video. It didn't work. Me and Brett are not smart when it comes to technical issues. We waited last minute. and there was all kinds of technical issues. So
Worked out.
He's not as good looking as we are, so you're welcome. But
Yeah.
But he does know more baseball, and it was a great interview. We want to thank Bob Nightengale for joining us. That just about does it for us here.
I'm going to watch some games.
Enjoy the football games, everybody.
Right.
Enjoy your weekend. We'll be with you next week to talk about championship games, Super Bowl, everything like that. So for Brett Grasso, I'm Bob Walters. Remember, vouch store and rate and review. We'll talk to you next week, everybody. See ya.